Case numbers are breaking records every day in the U.S. In the past 24 hours, 67,417 people have tested positive for coronavirus across the nation. That's the highest total we've seen yet. And tonight, the Trump administration is under scrutiny for ordering hospitals to bypass the CDC. More on those headlines in just a moment. But first, local hospitals are at or near capacity, and that's where we begin tonight. As part of the Tenet healthcare system, Desert Regional and JFK are bringing in traveling nurses to help with the surges there. The two hospitals combined have over 80 nurses from around the country, with almost 50 more expected to join them next week. These nurses typically stay at the hospital for about 12 weeks.
I know that the doctors and nurses in all of our hospitals are exhausted and working very hard and tirelessly reaching their capacity.
Desert Regional has at least 95 COVID-19 patients. JFK has at least 38 COVID-19 patients. And at Eisenhower Medical Center, a federal medical team is expected to arrive tomorrow to assist Eisenhower Hospital with its influx of coronavirus patients. Similar teams are already on the ground in COVID-19 hotspots across the country. Places like Houston. Our Kitty Alvarado has learned exclusive details about this mission from a federal source.
The cavalry is coming. The U.S. Air Force 60th Air Wing Medical Group from Travis Air Force Base is on its way to help Eisenhower Health deal with the surge of COVID patients.
From a staffed bed standpoint, we're really pushing up to essentially 100% capacity.
An advance team already toured the hospital to help better prepare the team of doctors, physician's assistants, critical care nurses, and respiratory therapists that are expected to arrive on Thursday. The mission name is COVID Theater Hospital 1, but their real mission is to relieve the weary staff who've been going nonstop since the pandemic began.
It really has become difficult for everyone here. Their heart is in it, but we have to be sure that we really take care of ourselves, we take care of our staff, as well as meet the increasing needs of the community. And we were getting into a situation where that was becoming very, very difficult to really try to juggle without some help from outside. I'm not sure how we could have done that.
Similar military teams were deployed to New York at the height of the crisis. Now these military medical professionals are deployed throughout Texas and California.
Our nurses are overworked. They're extremely exhausted. Right. This is a breath of fresh air for all of us.
Thanks to this team of heroes coming to the rescue of our heroes, more lives can be saved.
We're so grateful to them for what they're doing.
Kitty Alvarado, NBC Palm Springs.
Yeah, our federal source tells NBC Palm Springs the team was packing their bags and headed this way, and they should arrive tomorrow. They'll go through orientation and be treating patients by Saturday. Let's take a live look now a live look, but just a look at our COVID-19 numbers from Riverside County and the entire Coachella Valley. 890 new cases were reported in Riverside County today. 207 of those were from the Coachella Valley. 24 new deaths were also reported countywide, 14 of those in our valley. Indio has the most cases with over 2,000. Indio also has the most deaths now with 46. 8 valley cities and areas saw increases in deaths today. Now to Washington, where the Trump administration is asking hospitals to bypass the CDC when reporting coronavirus numbers and report directly to Health and Human Services. The HHS calls CDC's database inadequate. The CDC's database is accessible to the public and used by researchers to make projections and decisions. HHS keeps its database private. But 4 former CDC directors penned a Washington Post op-ed slamming the decision. They say it's a political move. A key model of projected COVID-19 deaths now predicts nearly 250,000 deaths in the U.S. by November 1st. Just last week, it was projecting more than 208,000 deaths by the start of November. Now it's foreseeing 224,000 deaths by that time. Researchers at Georgia Tech have come up with a way for you to gauge your risk of being exposed to COVID-19. It's an interactive map that calculates your chances of coming in contact with someone positive with the virus. It's called the COVID-19 Event Risk Model. You'll zoom in on the state, find the specific county, choose the number of people you expect to be around, and it will calculate your coronavirus risk. The 2021 Rose Bowl parade in Pasadena has been canceled for the first time since World War II. Organizers say they want to team up with broadcast partners for a worldwide televised event to take its place. They also want to host a smaller local celebration with social distancing. But the Rose Bowl football game is still on. Orange County opens the state's first coronavirus super testing site. Staff hope to test 600 to 800 people a day and then ramp up to 1,200 daily tests. The drive-through testing site is by appointment only. It's available only for frontline workers, those showing symptoms, and anyone who's been in contact with an infected person. Some USC students are getting an extra incentive to study from home. The school says it will hand out $4,000 in financial aid for both the upcoming fall and spring semesters. The money will go to the undergrads who would otherwise receive aid for room and board. The students will have to stay at home, though, during those 2 semesters. Most of the fall classes will be held online either way. The Orange County Board of Education approves recommendations to reopen classrooms next month. No social distancing or masks will be required. Thousands of parents and teachers have now signed a petition urging the school board to follow state guidelines. Those tensions escalate outside the Board of Education building today.
Up the schools would just, be opening up death traps for tons of kids.
Here we've been planning in detail on how we're going to bring the students back safely, and they're just like, oh, throw caution to the wind. Just let's risk all the children's lives. I can't do that.
Children are very, very low risk for COVID-19, so it just doesn't make sense scientifically to keep them home, and it's important that our kids go back to school so they can learn.
Both Los Angeles and San Diego school districts announced all classes in fall will be online.
We are not shutting down the church. We will be having church on Sundays.
With coronavirus cases on the rise, Governor Newsom rolls back reopenings, instituting another set of shutdowns this week. Some businesses and all places of worship are ordered to close, but not all are planning to follow those orders. You heard it there. A Rockland pastor says on Facebook the pews of his church will still be filled with people come Sunday morning.
I believe my mandate as a pastor is to obey the word of God, and worship is a part of what we do together as a church corporately, and we need to do this. This is important that we do this. We are not going to allow government to use data that is not supported factually to shut the church down.
Violation of the order could result in a misdemeanor charge punishable by a fine or jail time. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in May. Governors can restrict attendance of religious services because of the pandemic. All right, taking a live look now from our Agua Caliente Casino cam in downtown Palm Springs tonight, and send things over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett. He's back with us tonight. He's got a look at our forecast for us. Mike.
I am indeed, Sarah, and I've been doing this for a few years now. I can't ever remember taking a trip or going on a vacation and not coming back to a severe weather situation. This is literally the first time that I've come back to a very plain and fairly normal day. In fact, temperatures right where they should be for this time of year. We'll talk about that in a moment. I want to tell you what's behind it. We've got some very light onshore flow. There's a very weak trough over top of Southern California right now, and what that's been doing is been pushing in that area. You may have noticed that it's been very stubbornly windy along the I-10 corridor and in some of the passes tonight. Also pushed some fog inland as well. You may have noticed that right at sunset tonight there was that mist kind of hanging out at the mouth of the Banning Pass. Meanwhile, off towards our east, a ridge of high pressure over top of Texas is bringing some southerly flow and some monsoonal flow into Arizona, New Mexico, and even up into Colorado. That could become ours next week. We'll take a closer look at that coming up in the full forecast. In the meantime, let's cherish what we've got. 109, our official high today at Palm Springs International, 1 degree above the 30-year average of 108, well below record territory. Back in 2006, we were 118. And look at that. Overnight, we managed to stay 2 degrees below average. 76 is where we bottomed out. 78 is the 30-year average. And since 1940, we were 61 degrees. Looks like we're going to get to do that again tonight. In fact, temperatures cooling beautifully in the low 90s right now at the airport. That stubborn wind sitting there sustained about 14 to 16 miles an hour, with gusts still reaching the 20, 25 mile an hour part. As we get closer to midnight, and especially in the early morning hours hours of Thursday. We'll see those numbers go back into the single digits. And humidity was single digits today as well. It was about 8-9%, making a beautiful recovery back up to 21%. Really, really nice July evening. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air. We're going to be tracking some slow warming going into the weekend. In fact, it's very uniform. 110, 111, 112. And we're going to see those overnights creep up as well. Looks like that heat will peak on Sunday. We'll get these numbers back down. But as I mentioned earlier, we could see that humidity and the dew points going up. We'll take a closer look coming up.
Desert Hot Springs is seeing a string of violent crimes, including a shooting early this morning. But the police department says their numbers are actually down from last year. Now, some people say it's time for the city's reputation to change. Olivia Sandusky has more.
Over the last week, Desert Hot Springs police responded to multiple calls of shots fired. One on Calle Las Tiendas on the 8th, another on 6th Street Sunday morning, and an overnight shooting Wednesday that sent 2 men to the hospital. Members of the community say this pattern isn't uncommon.
You know, typically when you hear of a string of shootings, first thing you think is, oh no, not again.
But according to police data, crime numbers in Desert Hot Springs are substantially lower than 2019. However, the city did see a sharp increase in May and have responded to more domestic violence calls during the pandemic.
I understand it's a financial hardship. With that hardship comes tension at the home, depression, stress, which has led to an increase in domestic violence.
A report by the department also shows the city had a 15% reduction of violent and property crimes from 2018, making it the 3rd consecutive year the area has trended downward.
We have doubled the police force that we've had out on patrol on a daily basis, as well as the full detective division.
And despite recent events, residents like Pastor Shepard feel it's time for the area's reputation to change.
I think it's unfair, and I think it's unfortunate. Being a lifelong Valley resident, I can tell you, and we all know these things happen in every city in the Valley. For whatever reason, whenever it happens in DHS, it's like, oh my goodness, it's happening in DHS again. And a lot of it is warranted because of the past. But since, this last 5 years has been phenomenal.
Olivia Sandusky, NBC Palm Springs.
Coming up next, as more and more states put in orders today for mask requirements, one state's governor puts in an opposite order. Plus, Twitter comes to a virtual lockdown, and verified accounts took the brunt of it. But tonight we're learning new details about who Twitter thinks is behind the attacks. The White House is trying to distance itself from an op-ed written by President Trump's top trade advisor. The article by Peter Navarro appeared in USA Today, and in it, Navarro writes Fauci has, quote, been wrong about everything I have interacted with him on, end quote. White House officials say Navarro went rogue by publishing that editorial, and Fauci says it only damages the Trump administration.
You know, it is a bit bizarre. I don't really fully understand it. You know, I think that what happened with that list that came out, I think if you sit down and talk to the people who were involved in that, they are really, I think, taken aback by what a big mistake that was.
President Trump commented on the op-ed saying Navarro shouldn't have published it. The president also reiterated he has a, quote, very good relationship with Dr. Fauci. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has suspended mask ordinances in the state for all cities and counties. It explicitly suspends local ordinances that call for people to wear masks in public spaces. Governor Kemp has repeatedly resisted calls to implement a statewide mask mandate, but cities have been pushing their own mask orders. Public health officials say Miami is now the country's epicenter for coronavirus. The positivity rate there, 28%, one of the highest in the nation. Florida set a new record for coronavirus deaths Tuesday with 132 in a single day. They've now surpassed 300,000 cases across the state.
Miami is now the epicenter of the pandemic. What we were seeing in Wuhan 6 months ago, 5 months ago, now we are there.
State public health officials blame the lack of leadership from the governor for the surge. Experts also point to a toxic combination of crowded beaches, bustling bars, and people just not wearing masks. In Florida, nearly 1/3 of people tested under the age of 18 is positive for coronavirus. Local health officials are warning about the potential for long-term health effects on children who catch the virus. Plenty of news still ahead, plus Mike will join us with a look at our forecast. Mike.
Hi, Sarah. Here's a live look for you right now from the top of the Agua Caliente Casino in Rancho Mirage. Wind a bit stubborn tonight, one of the sure signs of some onshore flow. It's also the thing that's kept our temperatures close to average. We're going to be tracking a warm-up going into the weekend and more information on that monsoonal flow when we come back.
Thank you.
welcome back. Another gorgeous live look for you, courtesy of our Walter Clark Cam. This is 111 in all its glory. Not a whole lot going on out there. And again, one of those nights where you're not seeing a lot of wind in what I call the Cove communities. Obviously, La Quinta is a Cove community, but anything that's on the western side of the Coachella Valley. So as we are here in Rancho Mirage and Palm Desert, you're not seeing all of that blowing that we're seeing right along the footprint of I-10 there. Winds still continue to blow 15, 20 miles an hour. We'll continue to do that until after midnight and then calm down significantly. We were talking earlier about the reason behind that, and it's really difficult to see. Even as I put it on infrared, the trough that is over top of Southern California is so weak, it's got no moisture associated with it. You can't even really identify it. I mean, easy ones like up towards Alaska and British Columbia, you can identify those. You can also identify that monsoonal flow. The high is here. Remember, flow around a high always goes clockwise, so you get that moisture coming up into Arizona, mostly the eastern edge there. That's how it'll be tomorrow. And then New Mexico is going to get hammered tomorrow, as will the eastern portion of Colorado. There's a potential for some severe weather there. We'll keep a close eye on it. Meanwhile, we continue to stay breezy and relatively cool for this time of year. We saw those temperatures right where they should be for this time of year. That will change as we go towards the weekend. We saw that 111, 112. It looks like that'll peak on Sunday. In the meantime, Thursday is going to be almost a carbon copy of today. You'll see some of that low-lying fog in San Diego pushing to the inland valleys. In fact, we'll be talking about that in a moment. It looks like some of our inland valleys will have some breezy onshore flow. We'll get those winds up to about 25 miles an hour in the evening, and you'll see plenty of sunshine and temperatures is slightly above average. 108 to 112 is the range we'll see here in the Coachella Valley. So for most of the month of July, we've been talking about that patchy fog. As soon as you get through the pass and into Riverside, Highway 60 will have some patchy fog. It'll be dense along the 215 corridor, Paris and Menifee. Could get down to about a half-mile visibility. You put some sunshine on that about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, it mixes out, it'll be just fine. Same thing with the coast tomorrow. It starts off overcast, they'll get a chance to clear out in the afternoon, very similar to what they had today. No watches or warnings here in the Coachella Valley. One thing to tell you about, though, there is a fire. It's called the Mineral Fire up in Fresno County, and that's creating an air quality alert up towards Bakersfield along I-5, and then out towards Arizona there, especially in the Phoenix metro area. High ozone levels creating some issues there as well. 80 currently in the Yucca Valley, 89 in Desert Hot Springs, warm 90 at the airport, 89 in Coachella, some mid-70s in Cabazon, and look at that, 52 in Big Bear. That's clear air, 62 in Idlewild. Take a look at Futurecast. There it is. That monsoonal flow stays very politely off towards the east, but will shift in our direction next week. I'll show you what it means in a moment. Temperatures cool very wonderfully tonight, setting us up in the mid-70s in the morning. We get up to 110 at 4 p.m. Those dew points will be in the mid-40s as well. Look for 110s from Indio through Palm Springs, 111 in Palm Desert, a buck 2 up in Joshua Tree, and some upper 70s in Big Bear. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows those temperatures peaking on Sunday and Monday. Numbers come back down, but that flow could start to move in our direction and bring some monsoonal moisture and maybe some mountain thunderstorms come Wednesday.
Thank you, Mike. In tonight's Showbiz Report, Viacom CBS is reportedly cutting ties with Nick Cannon. Reports say it made the decision after Cannon made anti-Semitic remarks on a recent episode of his YouTube series. Cannon has worked with Viacom CBS for years. We'll be right back after this.
This is Peacock.
Peacock, baby.
The streaming wars have a new entry as NBC's parent company, NBC Universal, takes its Peacock service national. Peacock has some catch-up to play, though, on Netflix and Hulu, but hopes the free price tag, free $99, with ads, of course, basic service will attract viewers to the platform. Peacock is available on most devices and smart TVs, but it hasn't reached deals with Roku or Amazon Fire, which account for about 80 million U.S. homes. Several major stores across the U.S. have announced they would begin requiring masks for all customers. Starbucks and Best Buy have joined the list, and now Walmart and Sam's Club will begin requiring masks on Monday. Kohl's will start requiring masks on July 20th. Kroger stores will require them on July 22nd. Beginning July 22nd, but of course here in California it's everywhere. The pandemic could cause back-to-school sales this fall to actually top a record-breaking $100 billion. Because with many schools turning to online classes, parents are buying more tech gadgets and devices, not just regular old pencils and glue sticks. Families on average are expected to spend $790, according to a National Retail Federation report. Twitter accounts belonging to Joe Biden, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Apple, and more, are compromised today. Any verified account was unable to tweet. Well, Twitter now believes it was a coordinated social engineering attack on some of its employees who have access to internal tools. NBC's Dan Sheneman has more on what happened today.
Elon Musk, former President Obama, former Vice President Joe Biden. Just a few of the Twitter accounts targeted by a massive hack.
It has all the classic elements of a scam. They're basically using this to convince people to transfer their money over to this account.
Each of the tweets urges users to send Bitcoin to a specific address,
with the promise that they will be paid back double. Instead, that money is being withdrawn.
NBC News has learned at least several hundred people responded, sending in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Twitter released a statement saying, "We are aware of a security incident impacting accounts on Twitter. We are investigating and taking steps to fix it."
But the greater issue here, of course, is it shows a huge security flaw in a social network.
A network used by entertainers, business leaders, and the President of the United States. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
If they say click on this link and you'll win big money, don't believe it. Sports is up next. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Time now for a look at your NBC Palm Springs sports headlines. New information at this hour, WNBA star Elena Delle Donne will continue to be paid by her team, the Washington Mystics, even if she doesn't play in the league's return. Now, Delle Donne suffers from Lyme disease, which makes contracting coronavirus much more dangerous for her. In an article she wrote in the Players Tribune, Delle Donne said she takes, get this, 64 pills every day for her condition. 25 before breakfast, 20 after breakfast, 10 before dinner, and another 9 before bed. The WNBA had originally rejected her request to opt out of the resumption of the WNBA season due to health risks, but still be paid. But again, that's no longer an issue, as she will continue to be paid by her team. The NFL Players Association is negotiating with the league for opt-out clauses, including one for players with at-risk family members regarding COVID-19. Players are requesting financial backing if they decide to sit the season out over concerns about the pandemic. Another opt-out clause being discussed would ensure the players get paid even if they decide not to play. Okay, this is a Cinderella story of the day. Chico has done it again. The Dodgers clubhouse attendant, let me repeat that. The Dodgers clubhouse attendant, who we met last week when he doubled off Chris Taylor trying to tag, had an encore yesterday. During an intra-squad scrimmage, Chico caught a Mookie Betts fly ball on the warning track and fired it back in to turn another double play. Chico has gone viral, even being interviewed on MLB Network's International Talk yesterday. That's going to do it for sports. We'll be right back.
We've got video to show you that you'll only see here on NBC Palm Springs. Baseball players playing a game wearing kilts. Okay, you'll probably see it somewhere else. We take you to Georgia, where the Savannah Bananas were sporting kilts against the Macon Bacon. We promise you this was a real game. There you go. Only during a pandemic would we be so excited to see such a sport. Well, check this out. It's a QR code. If you missed any of the stories, there it is. If you missed any of our top stories, just point your phone's camera at the square and it'll launch you into a website with a link to our social stuff. It's so easy, Mike can do it.
Oh, wow, it totally worked.
Good night.
Nice.